Hi all. Today I want to talk about something called deformers. Deformers are a category of tools that can help you modify and change how objects look, work, or move in general. In fact, deformers are, in Maya especially, the tools that you use to animate objects. Because when you do move things around, it's very rarely done by just directly manipulating any object like a cube or a table or a person. What we try to do is put all of that animation information in this sort of separate location. And of course, along with that, we have these tools that will help things move in different ways. But before you understand deformers, one of the earliest and first principles that you must understand is how deformers work. Now, the most important thing to know about deformers is they depend entirely on the number of edges and vertices that exist on any object. And in order to show this to you, I actually have this set of 4 objects over here, 4 cubes that I extended, and I'm going to just show you what the difference is between applying a deformer to each of these and the kind of results we get. What we might also want to do is just separate these a little bit further. So I'm going to just kind of grab this and pull this further out. You can also, if you want, hold X to make sure that you're staying on grid. So just pop this here, move this not that close. I have to do this one at a time because otherwise all of them will snap into the same spot. So here's this. Okay. Now we have all 4 of these, and you can tell that they have sort of like a different variety of edge loops in them. Let's go ahead, go to the very first one, which you can see is labeled no loops, and I'm going to show you where you can find deformers. This over here in this menu is where you can find basically every deformer that exists in Maya. Deformers are wonderful things. Don't be scared. These halfway down, you're going to see these are the areas where you start being able to edit them as well. This is an edit section. But this is a different type of thing. And then over here, you have paint weights and stuff like that. So I'm sure you've all heard of paint weights before. Like I said, there's nothing to be scared of. For the purposes of today's demo, at least, I'm going to go and grab these things, this little section over here of nonlinear deformers. Nonlinear deformers are wonderful. They make your life so much better, it's ridiculous. And one of the most common ones that we see is the squash deformer. Now here it is. I've gone ahead and I've just clicked on this button, and it went ahead and it created this sort of like strange little line. If you go into your into wireframe mode, you're going to see that there's like a little circle with like sort of feet and head on either end, and you're like, what does this do? Now what this is doing is it's controlling this geometry. And usually when you've applied a deformer, the mesh turns a bright magenta. I don't know why mine hasn't. It might be a color thing. As you can see, because I've got this, I now have new things in the input section. I'm no longer as when I'm looking at especially in the cube section, I no longer see like construction history. Although if I did have construction history, we would see it. But I do see something called squash 1. That's the input. That's something that's going to teach this object how to do something. So I'm going to go to squash 1, and I'm going to look at the factor mode, and I'm going to increase and decrease it. And as I do, notice I'm using my middle mouse button scrolly thing. This is moving, which is great because if I were to set keys on this, I could get this to move quite a bit. Now, this is certainly different from increasing or decreasing something in scale, because there's an actual squash aspect which you haven't yet seen. So let's do this again, and this time come to the bare essentials cube. Again, select your object, go ahead, hit squash. Notice I don't go into the options mode because we don't need to go there yet. But we now have the exact same thing. And again, I'm going to come to the factor, not the envelope. Envelope is just the area that it's going to influence or how it works. But now let's look at the squash and stretch. Now you can see that in this extreme mode, the squashing and stretching actually has a bit more impact, shall we say. So if I come back over here, once again, This is just increasing or decreasing it in height. The reason for that, there is no edge loop in the middle that will help it look like this. So you can see the differences just from the stretching and squashing or unsquashing or stretching. Coming back over here, I'm going to bring this into a squishy mode. And again, let's take a look at this. Notice how it doesn't squish at all. So I'm going to like just kind of leave these two in this position. Come to our a little extra node and call it and hit a squash thing. And now let's see what this does. Ooh. Oh, look at that. So now in its chubby mode, you can see we're getting a little bit more deformation. If we stretch this out, and of course, this is a great time to come in over here and do a direct comparison. You can even type in like exact numbers if you want so that you can get like a really, really clear look. But here's this. So you can see how much information is being added every time we add more edge loops. So let's again, one last time to drive this home, let's take a look. So you notice how much nicer this last final one is compared to the others, just because it actually gives you so much more information. And this is the importance of having really good topology. Because if you want any of your objects to ever animate, you will always need to look for good topology to get you where you're going.